Hurimoana Dennis, tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Thank you for your time. Paint me the picture in communities at the moment with specific relation to our gang whānau, because what we hear all the time is it's not good, and they're having a tremendous detrimental impact in our communities.
Okay, look, Jules, it would be fair to say that every one of our members has some form of contact with a gang whānau, a gang member on a daily basis, whether it be for kai or just for some social provision services, education, mokopuna, family issues. There wouldn't be one of us who isn't in some way attached to some element of gang whānau or thinking. Ongoing, daily. We're not afraid of it. It's something that we live with and understand, I think, better than some of the non-Māori organisations, and in particular the Crown agencies.
So is the situation with gangs in our communities and the impact, detrimental impact, right, they're having in our communities getting better or worse? Because what we hear, if you were to believe the attention that it gets, is that things are actually getting worse.
Personally, I think it is getting just reached a level where it's more noticeable. The severity of some of the issues that we're seeing, either personally or on the news, are getting a lot more severe and a lot more constant, meaning, for instance, the use of firearms now. It's becoming not uncommon to hear that someone else has been shot up, someone's been shot, someone's been stabbed, and the feeling that I have is that in the last, maybe since 2015-16, since I believe that when the returnees kaupapa came in, it's just heightened the level of awareness, not just in the community, but within the gang fraternity now, that a lot more organised, a lot more daring, and a lot more willing, if you like, to do what they need to do. Plus, they're spreading out now. So some of the Australian features of a gang are now really implanted here in Aotearoa.
So we're talking about the 501s. Talk me through what happens when they get sent back to Aotearoa from Australia, because you're working with 501 members, deportees, trying to reintegrate them, sometimes rehabilitate them back into our society and into our communities with whānau. Are you there when they land? What happens when they get off the plane?
Yeah. The ideal is that we're almost waiting down the bottom of the stairs when they get off the plane. Hey, look, we know you've returned. You're here, clearly, in Aotearoa. It doesn't all have to be that bad and or hard. Te Pā has the facilities and programs and all sorts of kaupapa tikanga that are all designed to give these guys some space, some breathing space to sort of slowly start reintegrating, remembering their families aren't with them. So more often than not, there isn't anyone here. So I'm saying we need to be right down at the bottom of the stairway when they get off the plane, because anything in between that and almost the terminal, Jules, is danger time. And
What do you mean by danger time?
Well, they could find their way into areas that we don't want them to, areas that they may already be familiar with, and areas that they're the only options, if you like, at that point in time for them. So go left or right. We want them to go left where we are, because there's plenty of opportunity for them to reintegrate.
And does go right mean back into other gang activity?
Back into their gang environment, back into the only other option, back into the only thing that they may have known, Jules. But you know what? Not all of them come with that element of gang. I'm saying there is a big portion that we don't see a lot of that have actually done really well. They've got their own businesses. They've hired other returnees coming in as well. Some of them are making a really good go of it for themselves. The sad thing about that, Jules, is you know, every Sunday or so at the week they've got to take their kids back to the airport who fly back home to Australia.
Because they can't go back?
They can't go back. There's the sentence.
So let's talk about the current gang policy legislation in New Zealand. Of course, things like gang patches being banned. Do you agree with that policy or not?
Yeah, look, I've been asked that question before, and I've said to that question, yes, I do.
You agree with that policy?
Yes. But I have said that can't be the only thing that becomes a policy. That's like initiative number one. There should be another 20.
Right. Is the gang patch legislation the ban, is it enforceable? Can it be done?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, Jules, if you look at the requirements and the intricacies of how to enforce that, the many different interpretations and definitions associated to that, the actual application of that, you know, two gang members on a motorbike in front of a police car, that could end up in a car chase. That could end up in someone getting hurt. Look, I can see the court systems, justice system, corrections getting hammered to the point where they may need their own gang court. I mean, we've got a drug court, we've got a homeless court. I can see it all colliding at the gates. But more so, you know, I really have concerns for my former colleagues. When you've been in the police, you know how it is in operation in the streets. It's a big ask to get a patch or to issue a restriction orders that they have, and it's going to be a big ask.
Do you think it makes working in the police harder? Potentially makes it more unsafe for serving police officers?
I think it's going to put a spotlight, a very big spotlight and focus on a particular issue. I mean, even coming here, I saw two members on motorbikes, and you can't help but think, how do you enforce that, let alone stop it?
Are the community confused about what's going to happen? You know, for example, as you know, we've got whānau turn up at tangis, gang pictures. Even at Kingi Tuheitia's tangi, we had whānau turn up to that tangi in gang pictures. Is there confusion about what to do, how to do it, how it's going to be enforced, what will happen? And will it help reduce the numbers of our whānau and gangs?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very challenging. There's going to be all sorts of things going in court, out of court. It's going to be very, very hard and difficult to see some of these things taking place. We'll see it on the news, people getting hurt, perhaps cops getting hurt, members of gang fraternity getting hurt, public disorder, assaults on police. There's a whole range of things that are going on in my head at the moment, but in the end, Julian, as I said to you initially, I supported the notion of this because, quite frankly, we need to start somewhere. Previous to this, it's just been conversations. There's been no real thinking around recruitment. How do we address that? That needs to be our starting point. But
You mean recruitment into gangs?
Yes. Yeah. I don't hear any of that. We are focusing on the end product of what's happening, i.e. the gang patches and the behaviour, but there is no talk around how do we cut this off when you're talking about a family of 3 generations later, because when you talk about gangs, you're talking about a whole whānau, mum, dad, mokopuna, kids, and then moving into other families, so it's just growing. And in the end, it's just too big to just sort of think around the gang patches and the legislation that's coming in. They would have been better off introducing a menu or a strategy. Yes, we've got this, but we've also got a whole lot of other things going on. At the moment, this is the only thing getting the media's attention.
As you know, we've seen the report, whanaketia, the report into abuse in state care. Do you think, not just the current government, but also future governments, will learn from the experiences that we have seen and the intergenerational trauma that has occurred as a result of abuse in state care, that will help us when we're thinking about social initiatives, community initiatives, policy and legislation, when we're talking about gangs in Aotearoa?
And you know, the interesting thing about that, Jules, is the very kids or the mokopuna that went into care to get some care, got care all right, okay, but it didn't look like the stuff that they should have been getting. In fact, you would see that the origins of gang thinking and gang membership started there because at the end of the day, they only had one another. And that's how it all grew, if you're not familiar with that. But the irony of it is the gang situation that we have now actually started when they were in the care of the Crown. So an apology is absolutely necessary, but so is what else, what if? What's happening after that? Because you're talking 5 generations now, Julian, so it can't just be about an apology. There has to be a comprehensive something else that comes through. And from what I have heard and read and seen on the news, I don't think that anything in the current package with the apology, I don't think there's clarity on that, because I think that's what they're all waiting for.
If we miss that opportunity to learn, create change, if that doesn't happen, what do you think the result of that will be?
Well, I think what we've got now will only get worse. It'll just keep growing, okay? We can't deny that. There's no other direction for them to go. I think the profile that they can put on the apology and the history around it will go some way in helping members of the community and public say, hey, look, these guys just didn't just wake up one day and decide we're going to form a gang and do all of this mihi kino. It was a graduated approach to where they ended up as a gang. But you know what, Jules, as I said, that was their family. That's the only thing that they knew. Unfortunately, they've passed it on to about 3 or 4 generations now, which is what we're trying to deal with now.
Hurimoana Dennis. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Thank you for your time.
Kia ora.